Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the Riptide. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings, cretins.
Another fine day in lovely downtown Concord.
Well, actually, it's raining right now, but it's still fine. Pretty fine outside.
Every day alive is another fine day. In my book.
That's right.
That's all it takes to make it a fine day. Of course, the day can turn shitty, at any time.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. You got any travel coming up, John?
No. I finally concluded my travel for the current year.
Yeah.
Just got back from Mexicali, Mexico. We had their annual Copa Baja or Mexicali Beer Cup. And it was a competition just for the state of Baja craft brewers. And so a lot of fine beers, a lot of good times. Met some new friends from different craft breweries here in the United States that were invited down to help judge. And excellent time.
Nice. If you're up around my neck of the woods for the holidays, we should get together and go hit some local breweries.
Yeah, we should do that. I'll definitely be up there.
Yeah. Let me know. We'll discuss. We are continuing our series on practical barrel aging and all the elements that go in that. And I know we're going to talk about wood. And anytime I was talking about wood, especially hardwood, it just reminds me of John Blickman. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yes.
The guys,
normally when you think of John, you think of
softwood,
or stainless steel, perhaps.
True. No, but he's like a mighty oak.
That's right.
He is hard, but
bendable,
versatile. Right, can be cut down and used for many things. We could chop John up and make like a soup bowl out of his skull, and
cut him down,
toothpick out of his fingers.
Reduce him to dust.
Right. How much mineral value do you think we'd get out of John Blickman's corpse?
Well, I'd say you'd definitely get a pound or two. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a dollar wise, don't they have that thing where they have the dollar value of a human body?
Oh, I haven't looked into that.
They've and it ends up being like $13 or something. I don't know, $8.
Okay.
I thought organs were valuable.
Well, no, they're talking about once you reduce it down to its components, like calcium, magnesium.
I see. So $13 worth of a multivitamin.
Yes, 13.
Got it.
Yeah. About one little jar of Flintstones chewables.
What's the point of it all, man?
And associated mercury amalgams.
Yes, depending on how much fish you've eaten. I imagine, I could imagine Blickman being worth closer to like $20.
Oh yeah.
One, because I assume he's, inhaled a lot of very volatile metals and stuff, and probably eaten a few.
Yeah.
He's probably had a few pieces left in him when he lops off like a finger. I'm sure there's some metal shard there, probably. Some metal residue. So you're picking up some extra.
Ooh, titanium.
Right, exactly. He may actually have some titanium parts in him, so a little bit of bionic stuff going on. I would not be surprised if he has not been, engineering stuff late at night and cutting parts off of them and replacing them with bionic stuff,
cybernetic enhancement. Yeah,
exactly. See, I think I'm pretty. At first I thought, it was just kidding around, but now I'm pretty certain this is a fact. This is a fact.
Well, we'll have to throw him under an X-ray and look sometime.
Right. This is why you cannot go through the metal detector at the airport. There's the reason why. Yeah. You thought it was something else. But I'll tell you what, John Blickman is a brilliant guy, and I imagine quite capable of all the things we've just said. But he uses his powers to make great brewing equipment. Brewing equipment that is some of the best, or the best, and with amazing engineering enhancements. He's altered the way that brewing is done and the expectation of homebrewers as to how easy something is or how possible something is. He's really enhanced it. Things from the beer gun and the pumps and the brew stands and just
controllers.
Controls, just genius every way it goes. And he pays for the show, so you don't have to. So I would highly suggest you check out the website, BlickmanEngineering.com, and while you're there, send John an email, feedback at BlickmanEngineering.com. Tell him how much you appreciate that he pays for the show, so you don't have to. All right, we were talking woods. We were just about to talk about woods. We had been talking about all the aspects of barrel aging. We were talking about barrel alternatives. We've been talking about sourcing barrels. We've been talking about barrel types, flavor development, objectives of barrel aging. We've been talking about all that, and you can get those in the previous two shows, which will be available for download for free because John Blickman has paid for them. But now we want to talk specifically about types of woods. The wood that most people are familiar with, John, would be oak.
Lots of oak.
Lots of oak. It's a very common thing. It's because it's been used. It's got a real tight grain, which does a couple of things. One, it helps hold in liquid, but two, it also occludes oxygen. It keeps the oxygen out to some extent. Oxygen will pass through, I'm pretty sure, every type of wood. It's just a matter of how long it takes to permeate the wood and reach your liquid inside.
Right.
So on the oak side, there's American white oak. Generally comes from the eastern USA. There's a French oak that comes from various areas of France. There's an East European oak, which people say Hungarian oak, and there might be some others, but generally, what happens is these oaks grown in these different areas, they take on different characteristics. So you can get different flavor developments from them, and you can also get different porosity and different, the transition of air into the liquid that you're aging, and depending on what you're trying to do, you could want more or less air coming through, right? Oxygen getting to your liquid. So, for example, when you're doing sours, that oxygen is utilized, and you will develop certain flavors from the amount of oxygen that comes in, how fast it comes in, what temperature you're at, what organisms you have in there. So this is the reason why, really small containers with a lot of surface area to liquid ratio are a bad idea, because you get a lot more oxygen in there. You want to minimize the amount of oxygen. Some oxygen is good, but a lot of oxygen is bad. You can age like a Brett beer in stainless. It takes time, but you can actually develop a nice Brett flavor. Mm-hmm. But it's not the same as if you do it and you get some minimal oxygen coming in, over time. and the bacteria, all this will be affected by the amount of oxygen. It's one of the reasons they use. Yeah.
I was going to ask Jamil, is it fair to say that the more oxygen you have coming in the barrel, the more acidic the beer tends to be? That is, oxygen promotes the development of acidity depending on the bugs and Brett that you're using?
I would say generally that could be true. Because one of the reasons
details involved, but
right, you will get more activity from some of the organisms with more oxygen, and that will affect it. It can encourage certain organisms that tend to be more sour. If you have any sort of acetobacter or something like that in there, and they get oxygen, man, you're off to the races, and you'll just get a vinegar tasting product. But one of the things that they do in order to limit the amount of oxygen going in is also to change the ratio of surface area to liquid, and this is very important. When they do those large foeders, what they've done is reduce the amount of surface area, the ratio of the surface area that's allowing the oxygen in to the amount of liquid. And so just by changing that, you've reduced your total amount of oxygen coming in. If you took that foeder and shrank it down to like a 300-gallon foeder or a 3,000-gallon foeder down to a 1 gallon, your amount of oxygen coming in is massive in comparison, even if it was the same woods. So you have to go bigger on these. And I know it's tough for home brewers to do a large size barrel, but I think it's worth doing that and taking your time filling. You could fill it over the course of a month or two. That's not a problem. It's more important that over the course of the year or 2 years that you're taking your time in developing that. One of the things I did home brewing was I would take a glass carboy and or a plastic carboy and put one of those rubber caps on the top. It's kind of like a soft plastic. They're orange and yellow and those colors.
Yeah.
And those leak air as well, but it's such a small surface area to the larger volume of liquid that it was just about right. And I always found good results with that. I could leave something in there for a year, and it would develop as I was hoping. And this one of the things we're talking about is wood grain density, and that is going to affect your oxygen interaction. One of the things I kind of got sidetracked by sours, but if you're dealing with other liquids, if you're trying to age a whiskey or something like that, or a bourbon, and you have a desire for a different kind of flavor, you can do that in different kinds of oaks, and you don't have to worry so much about oxygen getting in. Oxygen, again, is an important part of that. Will affect it, but not. It's not as critical to get a low oxygen environment as it is really kind of on the sours. And even if you're doing sours, you can mix. At Heretic, we've got French, we've got Hungarian, we've got mostly American oak, but we like some of the flavors that we get from different speeds of oxygen ingress, and so we will taste them and blend them based on the different barrels.
Yeah. So going back to the types of oak, I mean, should we review kind of what French, American, Hungarian, what characters we're typically getting from these and how they differ from each other?
It really depends on the wood and some of the barrel makers and some of the products, and also how they're toasted. You're going to get more vanilla, more caramel, more. So toasting is an important thing. When they do light toasting, which they tend to do sometimes for wines, tend to be a light or medium toast or something like that. They toast it. You'll get more of the vanilla, the caramel, the clove. When they go medium, you start to get some cedar, roast nuts, vanilla, coffee. When they go heavy toast, you'll get coffee, charcoal, ginger, nutmeg, toasted bread. But there's also char levels. So when they're dealing in wines, they tend to go toast. When they're dealing in spirits, they go char. And char meaning they've turned the inside of that barrel into charcoal. It's an amazing process where they have this giant burner that slides into the barrel, and the barrel rotates. And they'll start off with a little bit of heat just to dry out the wood, to drive off some of the moisture. And then they'll crank it up to start to toast it. And then finally they will just burn the holy living hell out of this thing. And you can hear the crackling of the wood. It's like it's snapping and crackling as the interior of the barrel is
burning,
breaking into little chunks of charcoal. And if you've ever emptied like a spirits barrel, like a bourbon barrel or something like that, you get this huge amount of char that comes out, and little chunks of charcoal that comes out. These have broken loose of the barrel over time, but initially it kind of sticks to the side. It's all in there, but it's delicate. So there's different char levels. Generally, they number them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Most spirits barrels, they do like a 3 or a 4. I had some done recently, and I did something in between a 3 and a 4. They'll run one for you, whatever program. They'll program the German machine to burn it a certain way, and then they'll go, "How do you like it?" You're like, "Good," and then they'll run the rest of them for you. Or you can specify it, of course, if you're not next to one of these barrel places. And the different amount of char levels, again, like you would think with, the toast levels will impart different flavors, because there's the charcoal on the front, and then underneath is kind of toasted and less toasted amounts of wood, and how deep it goes into there. And the amount of charcoal, there is some, purification, almost some removal of certain compounds from the charcoal. It's one of the reasons that people pass spirits like vodka and stuff through charcoal filters. So some of that happens as well. I don't know how much of that is really critical to the spirits. It'd be interesting to put a beer in one of those barrels new. A lot of times when people do beer into barrels, and they're new barrels, they tend to use toasted. So I'd be curious. I've never done
into a new char barrel.
A char barrel, yeah. All the char barrels that have put beer in have been used, and they've had spirits in them.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that would work out.
Well, it may reduce some of the fusels or solvent character if you've got that going on in a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Be one way to correct a beer that had been a little bit
I would
hot.
think it needs a really big beer.
Yeah.
And maybe a really huge stout into something like this. I have a couple of barrels that we haven't used yet. I wonder if we should fill them up with some beer.
Okay.
Could be a good idea. And then there's other woods, of course, like we've been talking mainly about oak, but I've seen a lot more beers being done with things like, Spanish cedar or something like that, or a bunch of different things, hickory, maple, redwood, walnut,
those would
cherry,
be interesting.
chestnut, cedar. Cedar is one of those, more aromatic ones. Some of these other ones, not so much. I'd be curious as to the effect. I've tried some stuff in the past, and you can definitely taste the character of the different woods. So it's not impossible to do that. And then I remember I was at what is it? The place in Minnesota, the second oldest brewery in the United States.
That's New Ulm, Minnesota.
Right.
That would be August Shell.
Right, August Shell. I was there before they had set up their. They were working on setting up the old fooders that they had, Those are made,
Berliner Weiss.
Those are made of spruce.
Oh, yes.
I believe they're made of spruce. So, it could be made of anything. And, especially once the flavor of the wood is pretty much gone, people make a big deal about wine barrels and white wine or red wine. And sure, when they're just first off of the wine, you can get some of that wine flavor. But if you're also talking about neutral barrels that have all the flavor stripped out of them over time, you don't get much oak. There's really not any oak character that comes across. You can have these things refurbished, strip them out, and go again, but you're not going to get a ton of wood flavor in there. So, the wood flavor is limited, and that's one of the things. But if you use some fresh wood, chips, bricks, blocks, sticks, whatever it might be. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll get more into the whole maintenance of a barrel and all the things you need to do to keep them tight and tasty right after this.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, we're back. And I want to tell you about a sweet AHA deal going on right now. Whether you're a member or not, the AHA has a great offer on renewals or new memberships. You use the promo code BN2018 between now and the end of the year. And 2018.
Yes, that's right, Beef. 2018. Is that still the code? Shrug.
We can't get a new code around here?
I guess not.
Man, we're like chopped liver. All right, so you use the promo code BN2018.
BN 2005.
Right now, and the end. So just try different numbers and see what happens. And in the end of the year, and for any new or renewal membership through the Brewing Network, you will receive a free copy of both Wild Brews and Farmhouse Ales. That's 2 books. That's like the whole value of that's their whole cost of your membership right there. Just click on the Join AHA link on the left side, navigation of the BrewingNetwork.com website, and use coupon code BN2018 at checkout. So go to the Brewing Network site, find the navigate over to the AHA logo on the left, and click on that bad boy and use the coupon code BN2018.
I can imagine somebody trying that and then it doesn't work, and they contact the AHA and they're like, "Hey, I tried BN 2018, it didn't work," and they're like, "Yeah, well, that's last year, dude.
What's the matter with you?"
And then maybe it'll somehow then get from the AHA back to Justin,
right? Or they'll be this like, "It's a promo for 2020. Why are you using it?" It's like, okay, I tried 2018, I tried 2019, 2020. I think you can just go back, start with 2021, and then just work your way backwards. And I think, once you get back into like the 1980s, I think you're probably exhausted. You don't have to go much further than that. I think you're good.
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that code's not going to work.
God.
But go to the AHA for all your AHA needs.
There you go. The Brewing Network bringing you
Bevo saves the day.
Definitive information on how to get your discounts.
Yeah, I do what I can.
Textbook BN.
It's got to be 2018 or 2019. I imagine it's like the same code, never changed.
It just should be BN Army. What are we messing with BN Army? Come on, man.
Why are we trying to get all sorts of different codey kind of things? You can try BN Army, too. I would try a number of things. Anything that we've ever said as a code, I think you should just try it and see what you get.
Biscuit.
Maybe you get like, a Brewing with Charlie kind of
Rat Pad
prize or something. Yeah, Rat Pad. Yeah. There you go. I think that could be, some good stuff right there. All right. Barrel maintenance. Oh, we're talking about maintenance. We're talking about things like, sealing the barrels, cleaning them, storing them, reconditioning them, all that work that needs to happen to keep a barrel in good shape. For example, barrel sealing. I've been told by people who make barrels, they say, look, doesn't matter how much the thing dries out. Eventually, you can swell it back to seal up. It's as long as you haven't damaged the staves, it'll seal back up. There is no way it won't. And I don't know. As far as I've gone, I've come across some barrels that took me several days of filling with water to get them to swell. But that's about it, and they all end up eventually swelling. So it's not if it can be swelled and shut, but when. It can be difficult initially because there's like daylight through the staves, and it's hard to hold any water in it. So if you have like a large bin or something like that, you could fill with water and just float it in there. That'll help the swelling process as well. And you can spray
Seems like inside. There's a whole bunch of life-changing metaphors buried in here somewhere, but...
You like barrel swelling?
It seems like there's some potential there. Yeah.
You like gladiator movies? Have you ever been in a locker room with a grown man?
And bar, yeah. You bring up a good point, Jamil, because in the case of August Shell, I mean, they had to recondition those spruce fooders. They had been dry for 20 years or more.
Right.
And they were bringing them back. So
yeah, they got them back and then working.
So in the cockpit before?
No, sir. I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Ever seen a grown man naked? You like gladiator movies? Life-changing. So, one of the questions is always, do I use cold or hot water? Well, it depends on, how fast you want it to swell. And all of us are impatient, like fast swelling. We want our wood swelling as quick as possible. And because we want to put beer in it. It depends on the condition of the barrel. Now, and what kind of flavor extraction is going to happen. So people worry about flavor extraction, and a lot of this applies to, like I said earlier, new oak, where you want to get those new oak flavors. You're looking for intense oakiness. Then you might want to avoid using hot water. You get a brand new wine barrel that's properly toasted and never used. You fill it with hot water, well, you're going to extract a lot of that oak that you wanted to get into your wine. So you need to be careful there. If it's a used wine barrel where it's gone neutral, meaning there's no oak character left, you can use as hot a water as you want. It will maybe extract some of the stuff out, but that's not what you're looking for in oak aging a sour beer. You're not looking for oak character. So it's fine to use hot water in that case. You need to be extremely careful when working with hot water because it is deadly. We have a tank of hot water, at 185 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you get that on yourself, you will be burned and seriously injured. So you need to be real careful working with those kinds of things, filling the barrel. But once you fill it with hot water, you can let it sit. It'll drain. That's fine. You just keep topping it up. Spray some on the outside. It will eventually seal up. I would exchange the water, every 3 days. I wouldn't leave it in there a long period of time because you could start getting some molds. So you need to be careful about that. One of the things I like about using hot water is it pasteurizes the wood. If you fill a barrel with 185 degree water, the outside of the barrel gets hot to the touch. I mean, quite hot. And any organism that's in that wood, and that wood is, gone to, 160 plus degrees Fahrenheit, it's pasteurized the wood. Now, there's spore-forming organisms that you're not going to get rid of, but in general, anything you need to worry about has been killed off by the heat. So that's one of the things I like doing that. So about 70 degrees C is pasteurization temperature. So even when we have the culture that we like, we will kill it off with hot water, and then we'll refill with fresh culture. A couple of tips: wet the outsides. That also helps with the swelling.
Sealing up little leaks and air leaks.
Stack them in racks, and then you can. The ones that are leaking above leak onto the ones below. Believe it or not, the bungs where all the water coming out of the ones at the top, it kind of gathers around the barrel, and the lowest point before it drips is right above the bung on that one below it. And so the water comes out of that one and goes into the next one. And so I've done 3 high, 4 high stacks and fill the one at the top, and the water just travels down, and you just keep filling the one at the top, and it works surprisingly well. Wet the heads, and one of my tricks is when you're looking at barrels, and if you're looking at barrels that have dried out, the staves, the part on the outside body of the barrel, a lot of times they'll shift, and some of them will be set in a little bit, and some are sticking out, and you'll see like maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch difference on the edges. Those edges are all supposed to perfectly line up. When the barrel was made, those things were right with each other, and there was no gap like that, or no height difference between those items.
Yeah, they were flush.
They were flush, yes. And one of the things I like to do is take a dead blow hammer, one of those shot hammers. You can get them for a couple of bucks at Harbor Freight, and tap the staves and drive the ones that are sticking out, drive them in, and that kind of will tend to pull back out the ones that are recessed. And if you do that all the way around the barrel and you get them all even again, your chances of swelling this thing shut have just tripled. You're gonna have a much easier time of it, and you'll have a much better barrel from that. You can tighten the hoops, get yourself a hoop driver. You can do it with a screwdriver, or, just a block of steel or something like that. But they have specialized hoop drivers that make it really easy to tighten the hoops. Again, you want to adjust these staves in and out before you tighten the hoops. Because if you tighten them a lot and then try and adjust these, it doesn't tend to work.
They're not going to move very well.
Yeah. So you want to adjust this. You can kind of over tighten the hoops and then kind of make the ends not as tight. So you want to kind of be careful about that. Never fill a barrel with beer or spirits or wine or anything until you're absolutely certain it's sealed. You need to be able to fill it with water, let it sit, and see that there's no dripping coming out of it. If you fill it without sealing it, you're going to lose all your product, especially on spirits, because they tend to be thinner. They will just come squirting out of there, and you'll just have lost all your hard work. There's barrel wax. Generally when they get the heads and stuff like that, they'll put it around the head, and then they'll put the head in, and they'll use barrel wax on that. You can try stuffing some barrel wax on some leaks, but it generally does not work. You generally have to take the barrel apart, put the wax on the part, and then put the part back together, and then that'll help with some minor leaks. But trying to use barrel wax after something's filled with liquid, tends to suck. What? Yeah,
I've got a question. One bit of advice I had heard was with regard to wetting the heads. Mm-hmm. If you've obtained a barrel and it's dirty, mm-hmm. on the outside. Mm-hmm. I guess I've heard that you want to be careful about, spraying the barrel and pouring water on the head and leaving water sitting there, because you could get dirty water, with mold and so on, kind of dripping into the inside of the barrel,
right?
Which could be a contamination issue later on.
Sure.
So maybe one caveat to all this is maybe clean the barrel thoroughly on the outside.
Yes.
When you first receive it, before you start wetting it and so on.
Yeah. A lot of barrels can have mold on them. You can scrape it off, blast off with hot water. A lot of the spirits barrels, they have literal dirt and moss on them. I mean, they sit out in essentially a field for 10 years, and they're just got so much crap on them. They don't put them over like concrete floors. It's all dirt. They erect a barn over some patch of dirt and fill it with thousands of barrels. That's how the spirits guys do it. So you'll see literal dirt on these things. So yeah, that's a good tip, John. Is clean your barrel before you start messing around with it, because you could send water in there, or some nasty stuff in there. Another issue is beetle holes. So there's a beetle borer that goes towards any sort of barrel, wine barrels, spirits barrels, whatever they are. You have wood barrels. They come in out of the fields around May through July. When it starts getting hot, they find like open doors, and they'll come into your building. They'll bore a hole in, they'll lay a little larva, and then eventually, beer or spirits comes spraying out. You'll see little piles of sawdust on the rim of the barrel near the head. It'll be all collected, little piles of sawdust, and you'll see a hole. Well, that's where the beetle went.
What diameter hole are we talking about? Half inch?
No, it's about maybe a 1/16.
Oh, okay. So small beetles.
Yeah, it's a pretty good size hole, but it's a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more than that. And they will bore into the liquid, and the liquid will start coming out. The liquid kills them, but
they don't.
It's too late. Now you got a hole in your barrel. And they have little spiles, barrel spiles, that you can take and hammer them into the hole, and you can cut them off, flush, so you don't see those if you want. But it's best to just keep your barrels indoors, away from these beetles. And again, they're only there a certain time of year, but they will drill these holes, and they can cause great tragedy. You could have a spirits barrel filled with $20,000 worth of spirits, and then they bore a little hole, and you come in the next day, and it's all on the ground. So gotta be very careful of that. All right, let's take another short break, and when we come back, we're going to get into barrel cleaning, because that's probably tops of a lot of people's list right after this.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We were going to talk about barrel cleaning. So, John had mentioned cleaning the outside. One of the ways to do that is scrub brush and water. You can use some of a solution of sodium carbonate, maybe citric acid to clean off the outside. Just make sure whatever you use is food grade. That way, you're not introducing anything it's going to hurt you into the barrel. And a good scrub brush, deck brush, whatever, and just go to town on it. You can be nice and aggressive on it. It's not going to really hurt it. A lot of those barrels.
Do you ever use power washers?
You can use power washer, sure. Yeah. If you're concerned about pushing anything in, that could be maybe a little bit more of an issue. But you can power wash it. You'd be surprised at how much of the color of the barrel will go away and make it a lighter barrel. The outside wood, the gray and all that will lighten up considerably. For the inside, generally a hot water clean is all that's necessary. What we use at Heretic is we have a barrel washer tool. It's essentially a rotating spray head that is on the end of a stainless pole that we put underneath. With the bung facing down, we slip this in, and we fire up a 5 horsepower pump, and it just blasts the inside with a strong spray of water, and it'll remove any fruit, any yeast from your previous batch, proteins, things like that. It'll really scour the inside, and that's I think the best method to use for cleaning a barrel. There are commercial barrel washer units that you can put barrels on that'll do it, but I'm assuming nobody wants to do that. And if you don't have money for one of these stainless steel fancy spinning rotating washers, they actually make like plastic garden variety kind that work off of a garden hose pressure off to maybe like 60 to 80 psi. And they do a surprisingly good job considering, how much you pay for them and, what pressure you're using. So you might try getting one of those. If you find yourself with a moldy barrel, generally, I say when you're picking up barrels, almost any barrel is can be made to hold liquid again, and even if they got the beetle holes and all that. But mold, you can clean up mold. I've gotten some moldy barrels in the past, and the first way to do it is to blast the mold off with a washer. You could do pressure washing. The problem is you would need an angled tip to kind of get the side towards the hole. But you could get kind of in the other areas with a pressure washer, I was thinking. But
I would imagine a lot of barrels look moldy when you first get them, depending on how well they were treated.
Right. The inside, if you smell mold or see any patches of white or black or pink or green or anything like that, definitely can be mold. There's some white mineral deposits that'll occur that are not necessarily mold. They're just accretion of calcium or whatever it is. So you blast out what you can with the water, and then you're going to fill it with 2 grams of sodium carbonate per liter of barrel volume. So if it's a 200-liter barrel, you're going to fill it with 400 grams of sodium carbonate. Then you fill it up with cold water, let that thing soak overnight. and then you'll drain it and refill it with 1 gram of citric acid per liter of barrel volume. So if it's a 200-liter barrel, you're going to use 200 grams of citric acid. You're going to fill that up with water, cold water, let that soak overnight. Then you're going to empty it out and rinse it nice and thoroughly. And that should kill the molds and clean out the interior of the barrel. I generally didn't like to do it unless I had to. One, because the cost of the chems and the extra labor. But if you have mold, that's the way to correct it. If you take good care of your barrel, you won't run into a mold issue.
Now, where do you source these chemicals from? Do you get them off Amazon, or you get them from the? You
can get it from Amazon.
Home Depot.
I've gotten them from More Beer. They sell all that. Any wine making shop generally has these because it's not uncommon, and people will treat these just as a prophylactic measure, just to make sure that they're not going to experience any mold.
Well, you pour in enough to fill a condom? What do you mean?
Well, if your condom, it will hold 400 grams of dry material. That's quite a bit.
They stretch.
They stretch. That and starting with such a large size condom, I think you're probably good. Here you are. And then, we're talking about barrel storage. I think it's best, to not buy barrels until you're ready to fill them. And then, the minute you get them, if they're in good shape, go ahead and fill them. Don't dilly-dally. Don't sit around with dry barrels. If you have, a barrel that you've emptied, get ready to fill that thing immediately. Before you empty it, get ready to fill it. So you're constantly working that barrel. And then the barrel stays in its best shape it's ever going to stay in. They do better full of liquid. And the kind of liquid that doesn't go bad necessarily. But if you're going to dry store, like I say, avoid it if at all possible. You can burn sulfur in a dry barrel. You can use a third of a stick for a typical wine barrel, and then you're going to have to do that like every 6 weeks. So for that, you're going to use a sulfur burning. They have sulfur burning little baskets. They have little plugs that go in it. Again, all these wine supply stores will have this. And what it does is, essentially chase out the oxygen and provide a almost like a Camden tablet approach to preserving the inside of that barrel.
Do you have to rinse the sulfur out before you use it then, or no?
Oh, generally you want to, yeah. Anytime a barrel's been sulfur treated. Some of these big wineries, they will have sulfur generators that they will use to fill the barrels, and then they'll bung them, and that's how they'll store them. So you want to give it a rinse. You can also store it wet, and the advantage of storing it wet is it's not going to dry out on you and then have to be resealed. So the problem with it is it makes it much harder to move them. They're heavier. But you can make a storage solution up of 1 gram of citric acid and 2 grams of SO2 per liter of barrel volume. You mix it with water and fill the barrel. You're going to get fumes coming off of this, so you don't want to inhale it. And this will last a lot longer than the strips, but it is going to take out some flavor. So again, if you're working with new oak or something like that where you want that wood flavor, then you might think twice about doing it this way. Again, the best advice is to keep that thing full. Yeah. All right, let's take our last break. We'll be back shortly, and we will wrap up with bung types. I know you like to talk about the bungs, John. And we'll be back right after this.
like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. Let's just quickly go over bung types. We'll call it a show. So, there's the hole in the barrel, and the thing that goes in there is called the bung. And I generally like to spend money on quality bungs. You could use whatever to stick in there, and I've seen everything from Dixie cups to, pieces of wood or cloth or... Yeah, a common practice on wine barrels is when they're empty and dry and they just want to store them, they'll just insert a Dixie cup, a wax Dixie cup, into the bung. And it'll, pretty much keep everything out.
And it fits. It just kind of fits for that purpose. It's tapered.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's smart.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of Dixie cups.
Styrofoam cups stuff too.
But a high quality bung is maybe, if you buy them in bulk, even they're maybe like $6 in the $5 to $8 range for a high quality silicone bung. I like it because it's sanitary. You can get them in all different kinds of configurations too. But I don't like solid bungs that especially when you're working with beer, because especially if you are expecting the bread and bacteria to do something, you have some activity there that will pop the bung off. So what I like is there's a open close bung where it's got a little piece in the middle that you can lift up, and it's vented, or not vented, but
pressure relief.
Yeah, it'll push out and allow gas to vent, and then you can force the button down in flat, and it's sealed. So those I like a lot. And they have lockable bungs, they have breathable bungs, they have a bunch of different kind of varieties. And use what you like. I would just keep in mind that the pressure can build up in the barrel, or the temperature can go down over the course of a year if you live in a climate that gets pretty cold, and the liquid will shrink, and it can pull the bung in if it doesn't have a way to relieve that suction. You just want to be a little bit careful. For spirits, it's real common for them to use wood bungs, and those are fine. They're less expensive, but the thing is, you hammer them in, and you're not taking those in and out. If you want to sample, or you want to, check on your beer, check on your spirits, they do use these for, where they go and they hammer them in, and then they're not checking on all of these for 5-10 years. They'll check them sporadically, but they don't do a whole lot of checking. So those wood bungs, I'm not a big fan of them. They're hard to get out. Sometimes you have to, if you find wood bungs that stick above the edge of the barrel, you can tap it on the sides. Keep just tapping it, go around the sides, tap, gently tapping it, and pulling on it, and eventually it'll loosen up and it'll come free. If you find sometimes there's ones that are hammered in that are flush or below the level of the outer wood of the barrel, the only way to really get that out is you drive in a really coarse threaded screw, like a deck screw or something like that, and then use a pair of channel locks on it and lift up on it, or tap up on the pair of vice grips latched onto the screw, and so you can get it out that way. You just want to be careful about not driving it into the barrel or breaking it up. So that's bungs.
Bungs. Okay. Well.
All right.
Kind of there's a great joke that I just couldn't work in. What's brown and sounds like a bell?
What? Bung. There you go. All right.
a big contribution for today.
I'm sure John Blickman would be very proud of that, and this is why he pays for the show, is for quality like that. It's no doubting. All right.
That's right.
I've never been up in a plane before.
Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Do you like gladiator movies? All right. Well, that's it. That's the show. If you're listening live, stay tuned. We will have. We'll continue.
Barrel number 4.
Episode 4. We will finish off our series on practical barrel stuff, and if you're listening from the downloads, it's going to be another couple of weeks, and you should see that one available as well. In the meantime, take a moment to send an email off to feedback@blickmanengineering.com and tell Mr. Blickman how much you appreciate that he pays for the show. And, make sure you've got an AHA membership or renew your AHA membership at thebrewingnetwork.com. Look on the left-hand side for the AHA logo. Click that, renew, and use the promo code BN 2018.
Yeah, BN
2018, or something approximating that. I'm sure one of them will work.
Remember, work backwards, but don't go below your birth year.
Yeah, you probably stop then. All right, everybody. Till then, brew strong.
Brew strong, everyone.